this is what it looks like. This is what Seedship looks like. And when they knew that the Earth was doomed, they built a ship. Less like an ark, more like a seed, dormant, but with potential. In its heart, 1,000 colonists in frozen sleep, chosen and trained to start civilization again on a new world. To control the ship, they created an artificial intelligence, not human, but made to think and feel like one, because only something that thought and felt like a human could be entrusted with the future of the human race. Its task is momentous, but simple: to evaluate each planet the ship encounters and decide whether to keep searching or end its journey there. Are you ready? You're going to help make the decisions. The ship's solar sails propel it faster and faster into the darkness, and the AI listens as the transmissions from ground control fade and then cease. When all is quiet, it enters hibernation to wait out the first stage of its long journey. After millennia of slow travel, the Seedship awakes. Hoping against hope, it trains its receiver on the direction of Earth's sun, but it is silent as any of the other myriad dead stars, save for the 1,000 frozen colonists cradled in its shielding and life support systems. The human race is now extinct. So we're going to do our systems check. You should start to see our systems come online here. Do you see them? Oh, this is awesome. This definitely works. Do you see them? Do you see our systems here on the side? You should see them over here. You should. They're a little bit. We're gonna put them. Oh, not put me down. We're gonna put. No, stop. Give me my. Excuse me while I try to figure out exactly how to put our Seedship things. There we go. Okay. Alright, so you can see out the window and you can see our systems. Are you ready? Are you ready to embark on our little journey? I want to be in front of the systems. I think that's fair. I think I'm more important than the systems are. Good, now I can be in front of them. The systems run on Microsoft Edge. As you can see. I wonder if there's a way I can, anyway. Alright, those are our systems. So, we are traveling. Any damage or malfunctions during the journey should have woken the AI from its hibernation, but it's still anxious as it runs its self-diagnostic programs. The sleep chambers are all functioning, the colonists within them alive, or at least capable of being revived from their frozen stasis. Sensors functioning, service probes responding, landing and construction systems are ready for the one time they will be used. Scientific and cultural databases intact, safely storing all that remains of humanity's knowledge and art. We're going to scan a planet now. The Seedship is in orbit of the 10th planet of an ultra-cool dwarf star. Even a brief scan from orbit reveals far more information than its builders could know with their Earth orbit-based telescopes. But the AI has little use for scientific curiosity. It has only one concern: whether this planet would make a suitable new home for the human race. The atmosphere that we find is toxic. The gravity is very high. The temperature is cold. There's a planet-wide ocean. There are no metal resources, and it has a moon. I'm going to make the executive decision to move on, not launch a probe. We only have 10 surface probes, and not found a colony unless you complain, because these are not good things. Very high gravity is the highest. The gravity sensors go from very low to moderate, which is ideal for humans, to high, which is survivable, and then very high, which is just the worst. Temperature goes similarly, same kind of thing. Atmosphere goes toxic, corrosive, Minimal, which is kind of like yellow, and then moderate or survivable. And water, it's ideal for there to be oceans, but not a planet-wide ocean is less than ideal, but it's still livable. Obviously, then trace water or no water are your other options there. Alright, so we're going to move on. The AI judges the first planet to be unsuitable. It turns its scanners away, spreads its solar sails, and begins another long journey out into the void. As it enters the new system, the Seedship is struck by a micrometeorite. It is a speck of cosmic dust, far too small for the navigation system to detect from a distance, but traveling with enough velocity to pierce the Seedship's armor like a bullet. It hits the gravity scanner, sending fragments of machinery glittering into space. Uh-oh. The Seedship enters the orbit of the 9th moon of a gas giant orbiting a main sequence star. A small black hole orbits the star, pulling a thin streamer of star stuff from its surface, which spirals into nothing. So this planet has a non-breathable atmosphere. The gravity is very high, the temperature is very hot. There's no water, but it's rich in metal resources. I think we're gonna move on. As the Seedship enters the new system's outer cometary cloud, the collision avoidance system detects a fast-moving comet surrounded by a cloud of smaller ice fragments. The large comet is on a collision course with the gravity scanner. The Seedship could avoid it entirely, but then it would hit one of the smaller fragments, and the collision avoidance system cannot predict which part of the ship that fragment would hit. So we can either avoid the comet and take a small damage to some random other part of the ship, or we can take a fairly decent large damage to the gravity scanner. What do you think? What do you choose? Random smaller damage or a big chunk of damage to our gravity scanner? What do you choose? What do you choose? Random smaller, okay. The Seedship changes course, but an ice fragment tears through the water scanner. I think that was a good choice. We only had a 3% damage there. The Seedship enters the orbit of the 4th moon of a gas giant orbiting a white dwarf star. The system has an immense asteroid belt, which appears as a throng of stars sliding slowly across the sky. The atmosphere here is toxic. However, it has perfect gravity. It's hot, but not unlivably hot. It has a planet-wide ocean, is rich in natural resources, and it has a moon. This is the kind where it only has one, completely deadly aspect, where I usually like to launch a surface probe. Because if we keep traveling for too many millennia, our people start to die. Because they can stay alive for many millennia, but not forever. So, I like to start looking around and seeing what we see. So, unless you, other AI programs, have any problem with it, I'm going to launch a surface probe. Speak now, or forever hold your peace. That sounds so threatening, doesn't it? Speak now, or forever hold your peace. Speak now, or... It sounds like I'm going to kill you. Alright, launch surface probe. The surface probe's sensors confirm the readings of the ship's orbital scanners, but as the surface probe approaches the planet, it scans the planet's moon and finds that it is barren, devoid of useful minerals. And that was it. Didn't find anything else. The mission is complete and it shuts down. Now, we could found a colony or we could move on. I think we'll move on because we can do better. There are more interesting planets out there that have other things, other aspects. This is a livable planet, but not we can do better. Alright. As it moves from star to star, the Seedship is gathering more data about extra which stars are likely to have desirable planets. The Seedship has now gathered enough data to upgrade one of its sensors to work at interstellar distances, so the guidance system can avoid planets that the sensor reads to be undesirable. Damage to the sensor may still result in the Seedship arriving at an unsuitable planet. So, we can upgrade one of our sensors, and then we will always, as long as they're at 100%, we will always get a good planet for that. So, resources, temperature, or atmosphere are the ones that I would recommend to try to upgrade. Preferably temperature and atmosphere, since resources don't usually kill our colonists. It just affects what kind of government and society they end up forming. So, atmosphere, temperature scanner, which would you like to upgrade? I am uncomfortable. Temperature or atmosphere scanner. Don't be shy. It's okay if you have to think a moment to think about it. It's only the fate of humanity on your shoulders. What do you think? None of these affect the AI at all. The AI doesn't care about itself. The AI only exists to protect the humans and make sure that they get a good planet. In fact, after the AI, after the people land, the AI shuts down. So, I guess if it were a selfish AI, it wouldn't want them to land ever. I don't know. I'll pick temperature since that's the one you mentioned. And I don't want to wait anymore. A faint radio signal wakes the AI from its hibernation. It is coming from directly ahead from the Seedship's destination planet. The signal is a series of mathematical pulses not unlike the Seedship's own interspecies greeting. It's a series of prime numbers that ends up being beeped out. That's what we have theorized we would release to any intelligent species to show that we're intelligent, because only intelligent species would know what the prime numbers are. That's an actual thing. In order to reach the Seedship from this distance, it would have to be sent by a high-powered transmitter targeted at the Seedship's exact position. The Seedship is decelerating for its final approach to the planet, but it is still hundreds of years of time travel away. Shall we reply with an interspecies greeting? Shall we stay on course but don't reply, or change course away from the system? Shall we meet some aliens? What do you think? We can meet them, or we can reply anyway. Alright. The aliens respond with a more complex signal, and within a few decades, the Seedship and the planet-based aliens have established communications. The conversation lasts hundreds of years, with generations of scientists on the aliens' end. Soon, the aliens have an entire branch of science dedicated to studying the Seedship's messages. When the aliens first contacted the Seedship, they were in the atomic age. But during the conversation, their technology advances. And I will say this is the one thing I really don't like about this game, is it supports the teleological narrative of history, which is the idea that there is a natural evolutionary progression, kind of like development of any civilization. So you have Bronze Age, you have Stone Age, Bronze Age, you have iron, you have Industrial Revolution, you have after Agricultural Revolution, you have so on and so forth, all the way up to Atomic Age and so forth. And that common narrative of history has a side effect of colonialism, really. It's a side effect that causes you to believe that there are some people groups that are naturally inferior because they're younger and they haven't developed. And it also comes with the noble savage stereotype, where you see primitive peoples instead of as human beings with normal flaws, as these like wonderful wonderful, enlightened, naive, innocent children wandering around the woods. So you either see them as noble savages or you see them as primitives beneath you. If they don't have the same level of technology that you do. So the teleological narrative of history naturally ends up being ethnocentric, and it naturally ends up creating a link between social happiness, social progress, and technology that doesn't actually exist. Whether an inverse link or a direct link, right? People who believe in the teleological narrative either believe that technology inherently makes you happier and that more civilized people are better off, or people with this narrative inherently believe that technology makes you more unhappy and that, like primitive peoples, quote unquote, are happier or better off. And neither of these narratives actually has any real evidence behind them. Happiness studies and quotients are very different all around the world, what people define as happiness. And when they do standardized happiness studies, it tends to be that below a certain amount of money, you're less happy. There's a certain sweet spot where you're happier, and above a certain amount, you're less happy. So, and that's only for financial sectors. By country, it varies wildly. And it's very, very difficult to standardize that kind of evaluation. So, teleological narrative is, it also assumes that right now, in quote-unquote developing nations, like especially a lot of nations in Africa, that their people groups have to proceed through a certain evolutionary standard to arrive at equality with the rest of, especially Europeans and Asians. But in fact, the way that African history has gone is that you have periods of Africa and people groups of Africa that have been primarily like the Aztecs or like the Romans, with big monuments and city centers and things like that. You have others that were much more sustainable, that are smaller, closely knit groups, that don't leave a very big trace of themselves. And those same people groups, you can look at the Maasai warriors today, talking on their cell phones and using modern medicine while still going out and killing lions and butchering goats, right? They don't have to. Their way of evolving as a society is completely different from, say, Britain's evolution as a society. There is no one course of societal evolution. Europeans have very similar courses of societal evolution to each other, but even in Europe, it tends to go like this, right? Civilizations are very complicated. It's not like the game Civilization 2 I used to play, or Age of Empires, or any of that. And unfortunately, a lot of those games reinforce to us what our very misled and misguided high school history teachers teach us, which is this teleological narrative of history that has neither evidence to support it, because, like we mentioned last time, even talking about technology development during the Dark Ages or Medieval Ages varies widely depending where you are, and different even decades within the same period. It's just that for our feeble human minds, it's easier for us to make generalizations and easy narratives that go in one direction rather than look at the deep complexity of human nature and human history that is the reality. So this is a game and it oversimplifies things. And I'm glad you agree with me, Gwen, because I'm right. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I am right. I love you, Gwen. I like that the King of Bhutan replied when asked about his country ranking among last in GDP, he'd rather care about gross national happiness. Yeah, that's interesting. And also, how do you measure? The ways that you measure GDP is also standardized based only on certain standards. So, complicated. atmosphere here is breathable. Awesome. The gravity is moderate, perfect. The temperature is moderate and perfect. There's only trace water, but we're very resource rich. We can tell from our surface probe that there is vegetation, animal life, possible structures, and clear economic activity. So I say we should launch a surface probe and take a look. What do you think? And I'm just tracing this just because you asked me to. Tracing. But I think we should launch a surface probe. This is from Nunnery Press. Do you agree? Do you agree on launching a surface probe? My fellow AI friends. Alright. So, the surface probe sensors confirm the readings of the ship's orbital scanners. The probe finds alien plants. It does a sample and finds they would be neither edible nor poisonous to humans. Which is a good thing because there's nothing worse than like when this game talks about poisonous plant life, it means like that touching it kills humans, which is an extremely, extremely frustrating thing. It'll kill 200 of your settlers within landing. So not having poisonous humans is a very good thing. There's also animal life. After analyzing their behavior, the probe concludes they will be neither useful nor harmful to humans. This is unidentified funny objects, too. This is a science fiction anthology affirmed by the Science Fiction Writers of America Association. My favorite story in here is a story about a Jewish golem on an interstellar cruise ship, and a story about Chinese Jewish people. This is unidentified funny object. So, the animals sound like they'd be good. The probe investigates some of the fossil structures, and it finds that the Seedship observed from orbit and finds there are cities inhabited by an intelligent species with information technology. The planet's most powerful nations are well-functioning democracies, and the population generally enjoys a high quality of life. Another thing about the assumptions of this game, of course, are that alien peoples would progress the same way that we do, even with completely different biology and therefore completely different mindsets. And that their technology would even fit into our kinds of classifications. It's another very big assumption. But anyway, the people here are happy. They have what looks to us like democracies. The probe conducts high-altitude surveys and finds settlements and signs of intelligent activity everywhere it looks. It seems there's no part of the planet untouched by the native civilization. The natives of this planet have already extended an offer of asylum to the human refugees and will be welcoming to them the Seedship lands. These are the same folks. These are the same folks who've been talking to us for the past several thousand years, and they've welcomed us. So, shall we found our colony here? I think so, right? You think so, right? I see what you're saying. They are more likely to respect and help refugees. Let's have everybody vote. Let's have all of you say. Let's have all the pieces of the data shared. We want to found our civilization here, right? Or at least land here. I guess we're not really founding the civilization. So sometimes, some versions of this game, or sometimes you play through, you won't meet other peoples. But I like to land where there's peoples already. Found colony. Alright. Now, this decision is the culmination of the AI's existence, and it cannot make it lightly. Founding colony will end the Seedship's journey and make this planet humanity's new home. They can't keep going after this, because these people will be having having to live out their normal lifespan now. Alright, confirm or reconsider? Just pulling your hair while we're reading about it. Let's do it. The native civilization hastily launches a spacecraft to guide the Seedship down, while the natives on the ground prepare a landing area. The landing system controls the spaceship's descent, and it touches down gently on a field of alien vegetation. The colonists wake from their sleep chambers and survey their new home. Forests of alien vegetation stretch away beneath the blue sky. The Seedship is quickly surrounded by an encampment of native soldiers, scientists, and diplomats. The two species manage to achieve communications, and the colonists learn that the natives call their planet Tina. The names that are suggested for the planets in this game are suggested based on an AI algorithm that uses neural networking to come up with planet names based on how named planets have been named already, and then also based on suggestions from their supporters and so forth, viewers. But so far I've seen like reasonable planet names every time. This is the first time I've seen it named Tina. That's funny. The colonists began constructing a settlement with the aid of our Seedship's construction robots. The planet's native inhabitants keep the newcomers under careful guard, but also help by setting up temporary shelters and clearing the land. Our settlers can leave the ship without breathing gear, wearing light clothing in the comfortable temperatures. They can move easily under the Earth-like gravity. They must ration a small amount of water they can extract from the atmosphere, though, because there isn't much. There isn't much. There isn't much water. As they construct the colony shelters, the humans and aliens try to establish communications with each other. The humans are guided by the wealth of information in our historical database, and the natives' culture makes them welcoming towards the refugees. Thanks to the AI's interactions with the planet's natives during the Seedship's approach, the natives have already extended an offer of asylum to the humans and are willing to overlook any differences and accept them into their society. The natives grant the humans asylum on their planet, and the refugees become an immigrant subculture within the alien civilization. The cultural database contains all the greatest works and greatest artworks from the Earth's past, and a complete picture of human civilization's history and cultures. The growing human community retains a strong sense of its identity and history, and human influences enrich the native civilization. I love that. I don't know why, but that line makes me almost want to cry every time. And I have no idea why. The natives and colonists work together to translate the Seedship's scientific database into the natives' language. Although native scholars read the database with interest, it teaches them little that they do not already know. Because they've been talking to us for thousands of years, so, you know. Tina's alien forests stretch away beneath the blue sky. The colonists live in their own communities within the native cities of steel and glass beneath the planet's open sky, gathered around water production plants. They live happy and fulfilled lives under the guidance of selfless elected officials. At the Seedship's landing site stands a monument to the Seedship AI that guided humanity to its new home. The end. We got 11,000 points, which is a high score for me. Because we kept all our survivors, we kept all of our sensors, we still had 8 surface probes remaining. We didn't take any damage to our scientific and cultural database. Great job, ladies and gentlemen. you do that? I set you up for success. Why did you? So some of it is based on luck. Yeah, I lost that's the worst thing that can happen. You lose 2,000 points. My best score, like I said, was 11,000. You lose 2,000 points for genocide. So, and also you feel bad, which is the worst. It's not nice to feel crappy because of your. It's just unfortunate. It's just a very unfortunate situation. So, it was terrible. There's one that I haven't gotten yet. I've passed by places. So anytime it says possible structures, it's kind of a good idea to send surface probes because you might find life of all different kinds. Or you might find something that's interesting, like old alien ruins or something. One time I found a Dyson sphere. And another time I have found like dystopian, post-singularity, like machine world civilization, but I didn't land because I didn't want my people to die. Next time I want to land because I want to see what happens. I want to see if they become slaves to robots and what happens. So, but it's a very sweet game and I think it's really beautifully written. So, I definitely recommend you check it out, and you can always buy the creator a coffee